Welcome to Prodigy Sport Advantage Stations. P.S.A. podcast is an unconventional podcast that challenges the audience to think outside the box using real-life experiences, clever narratives, original quotes, and the creative use of satire in order to break the audience free from negative paradigms and push them towards their own personal growth. This is by no means a method to condemn or bash the audience, but instead encourage and showcase a different perspective that might not have been seen before. P.S.A. is designed to showcase to the listeners that the power of the mind is not a joke, and if a person can learn to control their mind and their thoughts, they will ultimately control their life. This podcast serves as a means of entertainment and educational purposes only, and not a replacement for therapy or any other type of professional help that the audience may desire. All right, y'all, what's going on? Back at it again for another special in the Mental Health Awareness Month. Last week, we tackled sneaker shopping. How sneaker shopping can be therapeutic for you. It's therapeutic for me. Like I said before, have I gone broke over shoes? Yeah, I'm not saying to go broke over shoes. I'm just saying, look, getting some kicks can be a form of self-care. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care what your mama say. I don't care what your granny say, your daddy say. It can be. All right. But that was last week. So this one is going to be a little different, a little more, I feel like, in depth, but it's going to be a good one. So today's episode is titled, How Utilizing Your Gifts and Talents Can Be a Form of Therapy. The meme for the episode reads, Stop looking for a blueprint. You are the blueprint. Inspiration comes from the Lil Baby song with 42 Doug. Obviously, I played that in the intro, so y'all going to hear that. A conversation me and my homegirl Juju had when we talked about this, and I'll tap into that a little more later. My guest was an inspiration as well, and the song Gifted by Roddy Ricch. So, all right. So now been talking too much. So I got my guests here. State who you are. Where you from?
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Just Mike the Poet, and I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All right. So you kind of gave it away because I answered my next question, but tell the people what you do.
Okay. So I'm a poet. I've been a poet for 12 years now. Damn, I can't believe it's been that long. Yeah. So I've been a poet for 12 years. So I do live poetry shows. I'm also an author, and I'm also a book publisher. So in addition to writing books for myself, I help other people write books for themselves too.
Okay. All right. Y'all gonna need to tap into that. If any authors out there, anybody upcoming. All right. So we're gonna get more into what he does even more in depth later. But I got a few definitions for you. So don't think too hard about it. You just the first thing to come to mind. All right. So when you hear the word gift, what comes to mind?
Blessing.
When you hear the word blueprint, what comes to mind?
Strategy.
Okay.
Am I supposed to be answering these with one word?
However you want to do it.
Okay.
You're doing good to me so far. All right. So when you hear the phrase custom made, what comes to mind?
Unique.
All right. And when you hear the word therapy, what comes to mind?
Help.
Okay. So as always, I go to Webster to define most of my definitions. Sometimes I go to Urban Dictionary, but I went to Webster for these. So it says gift. It says a natural ability or talent. It says blueprint, a design plan or other technical drawing. Custom made says made to a particular customer's order. And then therapy is a treatment intended to relieve or heal a disorder. All right. So I have an article from the Power of Purpose on Psychology Today. It says the need for purpose is the one that is defining characteristics of a human being. Human beings crave purpose and suffer serious psychological difficulties when we don't have it. Purpose is a fundamental component of fulfilling life. It says when we don't have a sense of purpose in our lives, it makes us more vulnerable to boredom, anxiety, and depression. Having an addictive personality can make us vulnerable to substance abuse. All right. It says alcohol or drugs are, of course, a way of alleviating psychological discord, but at the same time, they can be seen as a way of gaining a very basic sense of purpose to satisfy an addiction. So now that was a lot we read here, but I want to go over. So some stuff that stuck out to me is that it says the need for purpose. As humans, we need to live life. We need to fulfill our purpose. And a lot of people, I feel like, struggle with that. And that kind of adds to their depression or gives them depression or anxiety or all these other things. So tell us what it was like and how you came about with finding your purpose as being a poet.
Hmm. Uh, it was all pretty surreal. It came on the back of my own trauma, and then it also came on the back of therapy.
Mm,
So I'm definitely a big fan of that. In therapy, my therapist told me to write, and I wrote, and I shared what I wrote, and it kind of turned itself into my purpose. Like I thought, like I don't think my purpose is poetry or writing. Uh, that's too that's too particular. I feel like my purpose is to spread love and to help others. Um, Originally, I was in nursing school, and that's what I thought I was going to do with my career. And then because nursing school was too difficult, some of those classes I was too far out of high school to have to tap back in. You know, after I graduated high school at 17, I went and I joined the military for 5 years, and I did everything but read a book. You know, I was fighting wars. So by the time I came back to college, I was kind of burnt out, and they started talking quantum physics, organic chemistry. You know, all of these. I was I wasn't ready. So I kind of switched into mental health, and I wanted to be a psychologist. Um, and then, I mean, again, as you can see, like those are three different careers, but they all do the same thing, to help other people and spread love, whether it be in healthcare, whether it be in mental health, whether it be in poetry and public speaking. So I think sometimes when people talk about looking for their purpose, they try to immediately correlate it with occupation, when I don't think purposes are driven by occupation. They're driven by what motivates you, what inspires you, what makes you feel good, like what acts makes you feel good. Now the trick is always to find a way to get paid for it, but that's when your purpose becomes your paycheck. Because for not everybody, they're not going to be the same thing. Um, People's purpose can, you know, last as long as a day. It could be their whole career. It could be something they do in the summers, nights and weekends, etc. So for me, it was just a marriage of passion and a paycheck. But I believe, like I said, my purpose is just to spread love, and I kind of do that with everything that I do, whether it's poetry, whether it's being an author, whether it's being a publisher, whether it's public speaking. However, because like I said, my purpose isn't really tied to a specific occupation.
And you know, it's good that you say that, because when most people think like, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. But I like how you said, although you do all these different things, they still under one umbrella. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of times people will be like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can sing here, I can know how to do this. But yes, it's good that you're a jack of all trades. But if that's not for your God given purpose, it's really you wait, not waste. I'm not gonna say it's a waste of time, but it is a waste of time if you're focusing on something that's not go towards what you're trying to do. Because okay, yeah, you, like you said, you helping people, and say you are good at, you know, just an example, you are good at biology, but is that going to help you help other people in that instance? You know what I'm saying? Even if that's
Mm-hmm.
your best subject. Because see, me, I'm not, I'm, my brain is literally, I'm a teacher, you know, I'm a teacher, but my brain is one way, because they say it's either you math and science or you history and English. I was history and English. I got a degree in English. And in high school, and I joke with my students all the time, so in high school, I was an AP history, I was an AP English, but I was in remedial math and science. I just can't do it. I tried, it
Mm-hmm.
just don't work. But for me, I do know that, you know, as a writer myself, I think it's interesting how you said that, even though you're helping people in all these different ways. So can you tell us about why you enjoy poetry? And we'll even say poetry and then even writing too.
Sure. Well, I mean, even poetry for me uh, has a deeper root. I think I transitioned to poetry because I come up through street rap. Like being
Okay.
from South Philly, we had some of we had some of like the most legendary acts coming out of Philly within like 2 blocks of me. You know, especially around that time frame. Um, I had I had Beanie Siegel live 2 blocks from me. Then I had Meek Mill live 2 blocks from me in the other direction, all around the same time as I was coming up as a youth. You know, one was a little bit ahead of me, one was a little bit behind me. So South Philadelphia as a community was all about rap, and I started off as a rapper when I got out of. I mean, when I was in high school, even. Uh, but once I got out of the military and came back to Philly, um, my friends were still my friends, so I started rapping. And I don't want to date myself, but this is right around the time YouTube just started getting on, like maybe 2006, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's different than just, it was, before then it was, you rap, you battle rap with people from your neighborhood, or you might get a little studio time and record a album or like an EP or whatever. But now, like the invention of YouTube, you had to actually get on camera and rap your raps. Um, I was a talented rapper. I mean, I think writing, whatever you apply it to, if you're a talented writer, it'll it'll be beneficial for you. But my problem came when they brought the cameras out, and I had to sit there in front of all of these people and lie to them about my lyrics. I mean, because rap today, maybe even now, it's kind of like monkey see, monkey do.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't really been any evolution, maybe in flows or in sound, but the lyrics are still the same. I got money, I got guns, I got women, you don't. And if you take mine, I'll kill you, to that effect. I don't do snitches. I don't care about nobody but my homies. Just that whole thing. Um, so yeah, so I guess I stopped being a rapper once I had to get on camera and actually, testify to a bunch of lies. It was cool to write a rap. I write a rap for me and for you, but it was just something about YouTube and being able to see me. I didn't believe it, so I swear I kind of started that, and it left me like after, like I did not stop rapping to be a poet, but just that passion for writing was always there.
Right.
Um, um, I hope that answered your question. I forget what the question was now.
No. You answered it perfectly. But here's the thing, though, and that's what I like. Because first of all, poetry and rap, oh, they cousins. I remember
Yeah.
in like the poetry classes we took in high school, they would always say write a rap or go, we're gonna dissect the rap. So they're related. It's just one is more musically connected, and of course, one more like you saying in battle rap, and then poetry is not like that. Even though I think in some of your poems and just kind of how you come off, you still can kind of see. That's why it's funny that you just said you was a battle rapper. I can kind of see it now, especially the
Yeah.
way you do your poetry. And I'm a
Yeah.
firm believer that no experience is wasted. So
No, sir.
that's, to me, we talking about blueprints and being, gifts and stuff. I feel like you have your own, and even though you're not a rapper, you have your own like sound almost, because you have your
Yeah.
own uniqueness to you that's different than most people. So now let me ask this question. It might be a little out there, but people say and use the phrase, and we hear it all the time, and you're just going off of social media, because kind of how you were saying, it's kind of picking back up you saying like everybody talk about the same stuff. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you've seen on social media when people say, "Oh, I'm not one of them," or
Yeah.
and when they say I'm not one of them, but in reality they really are. And we see
Yeah.
this even style. A lot of the dudes got the little twisty like hair now. They got the Balenciaga sneakers, and nothing is wrong with wearing things that are in style. But I think the issue for me comes when you wear, sometimes it seems like things that strictly off of mannequins and say you different, or in the case even rapping, y'all talk about the exact same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
how are you really different? That's my question. And so with somebody like yourself, how did you know that you was different? Like, how did you know you could say, okay, just the Mike Poet is different, or he does this because don't nobody do this, so I know I'm different just because? Like, how did you know?
Um, To be honest, I never really sought out to be different because I was in a market that I didn't feel like I saw myself represented. You
Mm.
know, I think when most people um, when most people try to be different, it's because they're in a situation where they're surrounded by a bunch of people who are almost identical. When I started doing poetry, um, I was the only poet because everybody else was a rapper. When I started, I didn't see any other poets on the internet um, writing and posting their work. I didn't see any other poets on tour. I didn't see any other poets writing books and selling books. I mind you, this is back in 2011, 2012. I mean, now it's kind of flooded, but the good thing about me is that I didn't have to worry about separating myself from the rest of the people because there was no rest.
Right.
Um, so I mean, good enough for me. I mean that's the tough part was I had no guidance. Everything that I did, it was just my business sense as well as listening to my fan base. It's, hey Mike, you should write more. Hey Mike, you should make these longer. Hey Mike, you should write a book. Hey Mike, you should go on tour. Hey Mike, you should let me open up for you. Hey Mike, you should help me write my book. Now we have tours, books, publishing companies, just off of my ability to listen to my audience and then be able to use my business sense for my brand, which is definitely important. Um, my advice for people who are in markets or do have ideas or dreams that involve other people, my goal is to, I mean, my advice is to kind of tap out of the world and tap into yourself. I've gone as far as to unfollow everybody on social media because because uh, one is too much time wasted. Believe it or not, I was spending at least 2.5 to 3 hours a day um, just scrolling and tapping, and that's a waste. In 3.5 hours, you can write 5 poems and record a song. So it was a time management thing. But I also noticed that um, I didn't have as much pleasure out of my own life because I was more so worried about what other people were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I didn't want to delete my whole platform because that's where my business is. But at the same time, I really wanted to tap back into myself because I know I'm about to be creative. And I caught myself, I caught myself subconsciously like paying attention too much to other people's work, and I saw it kind of start to bleed into mine. It's like, nah, wait a minute, I'm going to lose my organic self because I'm in the mix. You know how like that quote they say, you got to stay out the mix because that's how you're going to lose your flavor. And I felt that because the more you be around certain things or the more you see certain things, you're subconsciously soaking that in. And I wanted to prevent that. So my advice to you or to anybody listening that's in one of them situations where they're in a community, they're in a realm, they're in like a business setting where it's super competitive or it's super inundated with people, man, you got to kind of tap back out, even if it's just your clothes. Just kind of tap back out of the market and then tap back into yourself because, you know, everybody's one on one.
It's so crazy because you talking about it's still, and even with you talking, and I don't even know if you realize a lot of stuff that you doing, granted you doing it with poetry, you saying it's flooded now, but you still kind of are the blueprint in a sense in that realm because no, you're not the first person to be a poet, but you are the first person to kind of move like a poet that moves like a rapper still. You know what I'm saying? And how you go on tour and do all these things, like the way you do stuff is like your own. Like I don't know nobody who else does it. And even the thing is with being a blueprint is, and that's the theme for my season. Like I'm gonna send you my trailer that I did for this season that I'm in now before it had launched. Like I said, I called myself the blueprint because when I started podcasting in 2018, I wasn't the first podcast ever, obviously. Podcasts started to become more popular, it seemed like, where everybody started having one in like 20, maybe. Like, so when I first was starting to do it, it was so many people that came up to me and was like, you know, I started my YouTube channel because I seen your podcast. I started my podcast because of that. Or I stole this segment for my radio show based on your podcast. Because like how you say you didn't have no guidance, I didn't either. All I had was God and me just doing research. When I did my research, and this for anybody who you trying to get in the industry, you need to look up the top 10 or top 5 in that industry. Don't worry about the people around you. If you want to like study some and get some notes from the people that's the top in that industry, because clearly they up there for a reason. And a lot of times, and that's why I think it's good that you said you tapped out and you unfollowed everybody. Y'all, this man got almost 200K followers. Don't follow a soul. And that's funny to me because it's like some people would get offended by that, but you doing it for you. You doing it so that you're not easily influenced, because we can be easily influenced whether we realize it or not. Just because you don't acknowledge that you influenced by something don't mean you are. You know what I'm saying? You watching something on TV, you reading something, you seeing some constantly on your phone.
If you eat tacos on Tuesday, you're influenced by somebody.
Right. You say, I wouldn't even want no taco, but I seen them eating it on their story. Look good. Let me go get some tacos today. You was trying to be on your diet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's good. I'm not gonna say everybody should unfollow everybody on Instagram because that ain't gonna work for everybody, but you could still deactivate it for a minute, you know. Because and honestly, with y'all talking, I ain't gonna lie, I'm talking to myself because I'm a little toxic with the social media. I be on there like too much. I need a break. So it's hard with me trying to promote a podcast every week, but maybe I'm gonna need to get something together to where I just promote it and bounce off of it or something. I don't know. We're gonna have to see about that. But let's get back into positive impacts, and especially with our purpose. So we've been talking about gifts, our purpose, our talents and stuff. And this is an article from an article called How Purpose Has a Positive Impact. It says a powerful example of this comes from Viktor Frankl's book, Man Searching for Meaning, in which he describes his experience in concentration camps during the Second World War. Franklin observed that his inmates who were more likely to survive were those who felt they had a goal or a purpose. Franklin himself spent a lot of time trying to reconstruct the manuscript he had lost on his journey to the camp of his life's work. Others held on to a vision of their future, seeing their loved ones again, or a major task to complete once they were free. So before we go to the next part, I'm gonna just kind of go on that one. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I've been me and my job, like I teach 8th graders, and like my bosses and stuff, they've been on it this year, and it's been irritating me. But I know I'm not gonna be a teacher forever. So me holding on to what I'm called to do and my purpose has been keeping me sane, because I know I'm not gonna be there forever. But in the same breath, like I know, okay, this is temporary. Don't get too emotional when they say little stuff. It's temporary. You know, this ain't even what you're supposed to do. So with that, now let's quickly, before we go to the next part of that, talk about the books. So for anybody that's who wants to be an author, now how many books have you written?
Yeah. I've written 4.
4. Okay. What are they? Can you give us just a brief the sample of what they're about?
Sure. So Just Words is a blend of all different kinds of poetry. Before I found my niche in like love and relationships and empowerment and healing, I was writing about everything from teen pregnancy to racism to domestic violence. And then so that was my first book, Just Words. And then I sold it out the trunk of my car, and so many people said they read it in a day or 2 days or 3 weeks. So what I did was I came back out with Just Words 2, which was more so like a continuation of Just Words 1. And then after that, I kind of found my niche in terms of women. You know, like there's a line from Jadakiss where he says they ask him why he makes songs like "Knock Yourself Out," and he says because the chicks will buy it and the thugs will dub it, meaning that the women are, the women drive the economy, especially for people of color. You know, I can't remember how many times I would give a girl money just so she could spend it out in the street. You know, so it was kind of I wouldn't call it a marketing strategy, but
Hello?
Yeah.
Sorry, my headphone had died.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, all right. So anyway, it led me to my third book, which was Dear Woman, which is probably the most interesting book to me because after my first two books and I became this poet, I opened myself up for people with questions. And over the course of the summer, I got about 14,000 emails from women all across the world with questions about different things that they had wanted me to talk about or wanted my advice on. And once I noticed them, I kind of vision boarded them all out. I got a team and we just started organizing all of these questions and coming up with topics. And I wrote Dear Woman. Now, Dear Woman is what catapulted me. My first two books are probably sold maybe like 4,000 copies apiece. Um, Dear Woman, I sold about 150,000 copies.
Oh,
And then after that one was the Boyfriend book, which is kind of spinoff of Dear Woman. And those are my four books. Just Words 2, Dear Woman, and the Boyfriend book. My new book, Hope, is on the way this year.
okay. So this is my question, kind of tying into the first part of the article that we read just a few seconds ago, or not, it's talked about how the man was in a concentration camp and him focusing on his purpose and his goal, whatever that was, what we know his was to get free and get his family and all that stuff, kept him motivated, kept him alive. So during the time, as a creative myself, it's like when you go through them dark patches, you know you finna come up with some fire. Like you just know it. Like you didn't go through them dark, rough times, them hard times, them times where you might have a mental breakdown or two, but then you know the content finna be, through the roof. So when you were creating your books, did you go through dark times in between any of those?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they were definitely inspiration.
Yeah, I think some of our greatest accomplishments come from pain. I think some of our most organic moments come from pain and the ability to turn pain into a purpose. It's sort of like problem solving. I think we solve our best problems when we got problems to solve. For me, it's kind of twofold. It's trying to turn your pain into your purpose, but also trying to survive out here. I mean, anything can be trauma. Having $7 in your bank account is a trauma. As pain. Not knowing where your next meal came from is a pain. It's a trauma, and those things kind of motivate you. I mean, it always gets harder when you get to the top or towards the top, is because you'll notice that a lot of the things that you thought were problems you don't really have anymore, and it's really hard to get that motivation then, because your comfort, like complacency doesn't breed gratitude; it breeds content. So you forgot that working hard gets you to a certain level, and then when you get there, you don't want to work anymore, which is kind of what I've been struggling with now, especially since the pandemic. The pandemic had forced me, to kind of redirect my energy, and I started getting into real estate and Bitcoin, and now I'm doing the same numbers I did as a poet. So now it's really, I haven't put a book out in 4 years, man. So as far as dark places, I'm kind of in one now in terms of writing, because now I have a publishing company. I'm in the stock market as well as crypto. I've got real estate. I'm buying and flipping. I'm getting rent every month, and then I still got royalties from the money I never spent. So now it's I think God is really testing me, because it's like remember, all of this started from pain and passion and purpose, and now you're blessed with all of these things. Now what? A lot of people think that the only time that they struggle with pain and purpose and prosperity and progress is at the beginning, but it's going to go all the way through. It's discipline. It's discipline and prayer that's going to bring you there. And that's what I'm trying to stand on now. I'm fasting. I'm meditating. I'm taking care of my body. I'm tapping out of the world, turning off the TV, opening up more books, just trying to find that drive again, because I love poetry. Poetry saved my life, but I find myself spending too many hours a day doing things other than being a poet.
Well, all right. Okay. It says that I would suggest a number of different reasons why purpose is good for our psychological health. It said, firstly, it makes us less vulnerable to what I call psychological discord. This is the fundamental sense of unease we often experience, whether our attention isn't occupied by eternal things, and which can manifest itself in boredom, anxiety, and depression. It says by focusing
Yeah.
our attention externally and giving us a constant source of activity to channel our mental energy into purpose means that we spend less immersed in the associational associational chatter of our minds, the chatter which often triggers negative thoughts and feelings. And then it says our own
Mhm.
problems seem less significant when we spend less time thinking about them, and our soul and so our sense of well-being increases. I think that's interesting because
Yeah.
that you said all that before I just read that. And that was funny because sometimes we have to take a break, like you said, from the world because it can get too cluttered. We worry about things that don't matter. We kicking it with people we probably shouldn't be around. And that's the thing I'm learning this year has been a test for me because it's like I've been seeing stuff and it's just like for me, you have to, and even it ain't even a big I want to say like a beef. Sometimes you might have to just step away from people and not even forever. And not because they even did nothing to you, just because what they own right now is just not what you own right now. So it's like, I might need to leave you alone for a second because you a good time, but I don't need to have a good time right now. I need to be focused and I need to get to what I'm doing because we can keep having them good times and then we miss out on something that we were supposed to do. We were supposed to be aligned with this right now, but we over here kicking it. And ain't nothing wrong with kicking. But the problem is when you kick it too much, you know. But we'll get into that. And then it says, so my thing is, I went to complex.com because as I said, this season is themed as the blueprint. And then this episode kind of is going based off of purposes, blueprints, all that good stuff. So Jay-Z discussed what it took to be the blueprint. All right. His iconic album had many tracks that were for other people. Okay. So, how do you feel about people who always take other people's work? As far as how do you feel about people who like we see just Mike the Poet, he did his book like this. I'm gonna kind of do mine like that, but it's gonna be a little different. But it's completely it's a difference between using something as an influence and just jocking somebody's stuff. So, what do you think about when people do that?
Imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so for me, it's all in God's plan. Everything happens in divine order.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it like giving me my flowers. Uh, anytime you're faced with something like that, you're put in a position to make a decision. Now you can scream and you can holler, and you can be frustrated. You can send cease and desist. But what you're missing is that somebody was touched enough about something that you created to want to recreate it and reproduce it. You know, I've I've spawned hundreds of poets. I've spawned hundreds of authors. I've spawned, I had a No More Boyfriend shirt for my boyfriend book, and Halle Berry wore it because she reached out to me. I sent her a book and a shirt, and she actually put it on. In 72 hours, there were 11 different websites from Asia to Africa, all with some rendition of a shirt that says "No More Boyfriends" on it. Now, I could have been upset and said, "Man, I'm gonna call all of these people. I'm gonna get a lawyer. I'm gonna send out cease and desist." But I smiled because if I did something that made you appreciate it enough to want to do something, um, God bless you because I sparked you, and people aren't. Some people, their way of gratitude is not a conversation. Sometimes it's an imitation, but it's still gratitude. You change your thoughts, change your life. So it's
Okay.
gratitude. I do like I mean there's a thin line. Like I can't say that I'm always gonna feel like this, but this is just the spirit that I'm in. Like you're not gonna take nothing from me personally. But if you wanna design, if you If you want to make your book Dear Women because you read Dear Woman, that's cool. Google search SEO is going to make my book come up first anytime they type that anyway, thinking they got my book wrong. So it's all going to come back, you know. Like I said, you just got to change your mindset, or else everything will drive you crazy.
That's the thing. I think sometimes my struggles with it personally. So I'm throwing myself
Yeah.
out there, struggling with wanting to, I guess you could say, play God. And like when people do stuff, you gotta no, you're not gonna get away with that. But the peace you get from just letting stuff go, because I've experienced before, it's a struggle. But I have
Yeah.
experienced it before to where when you just had that peace, you just like, you got it because I know it's going to get taken care of nowhere. And I don't want to put my energy into that only because, again, it is a struggle. But still, just when I have experienced it before, it's just like, man, like I don't even care. And I just feel like, I don't know. I'm sure there's some people who don't even struggle with it, who naturally got it. But, it is what it is. I just think that you can be a blueprint and still be admit to being influenced by somebody, because everybody was influenced by something. It's when I think sometimes people try to take this influence from this person, that person, this person, that person, and try to make the ultimate thing versus, maybe letting it inspire you some, but not to the point where it's you just jocking them and just put a new face on it. And again, like you said, people gonna do it. That's their business. You gonna jock, you gonna imitate. That's you. I just don't want to be that person. I like being authentic and original. And I just feel like you get further that way. All right.
For
So
sure.
from an article it's called The Varieties of Purpose. So actually, y'all, there are different types of purposes, and there's different types of way in which people go about their purpose. It says the first one is survival. It says this is the most basic level of purpose. It says common to all living things on this planet. It means the effort to meet the basic physical needs for food, shelter, or to protect one's survival in the face of others who threaten it. It says this level of purpose is common in very poor countries or countries at war or with brutally oppressive regimes of members of certain castes or ethnic groups who are oppressed by the majority. It says there is an altruistic and idealistic style of purpose. It says at a higher level of personal development, the desire for personal gain recedes, and one sense of purpose becomes much more broader. It says there may be more human-centered desire to help other people to alleviate their suffering and further their development. All right. So this is kind of one I think Mike is personally. This is one I think he's more like. As another one, it's called personal and spiritual development. It says there are two subgroups here. Firstly, there is a personal self-development in the sense of self-exploration and creativity. And it says this can be an artistic purpose, whose self-expression, or a purpose, or a person who is continuously absorbing new knowledge or interests or developing new skills. It says it's for personal development, a sense of spiritual development, a person who feels a strong motivation to transform their state of being into a higher level through practice. All right. I like that one. I think that one's interesting, especially when it talks about the personal and spiritual development. Because personally, I feel like most of my creativity comes from my spiritual beliefs and with God and stuff. So, and of course, He's allowing things to happen. And like I said, this content that's been going this year been based on a lot of stuff that's been happening this year and stuff that was happening kind of the end of last year, and it's been kind of rough. So, it's going pretty good. Now, before we move on to the last two segments, we got to talk about therapy. So again, Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'm showcasing how things are therapeutic for people. And when we talk about therapy, remember we defined that earlier, but the definition of therapy is a treatment in order to relieve or heal a disorder. So you mentioned how writing from your therapist, you were told to write because it helped to treat, the things that you were going through and help to bring about healing in a sense. When it comes to therapy and a person's gifts and their callings, I feel as though you knowing what you're called to do and then doing it can really put you in a position to like bring you out of that dark place. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people I think are scared to start what they want because of a lot of people don't want to start from the bottom, but the only way to get to the top is to start from the bottom. And that's with anything. It's even something as simple as a ladder. You can't get to the top of the ladder unless you start at the bottom of the ladder. You can't just teleport to the top. If you can, then you a mutant, you X-Men. I might need to stay away from you. But with you starting from the bottom and to get to where you are now, you're only gonna get even higher up. You said you
Yeah.
got Halle Berry wearing your stuff. And it's funny because I've seen those shirts and didn't know that you started that, but I have seen them before.
Mhm.
So, do you think that being where you are now, do you think that it was worth starting at the bottom?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, but I don't. I can't look at it. I can't look at it as bottom and top, uh, uh, because I haven't gone anywhere. I've just I've just grown. Uh, I think for me I think it's planting roots
Hmm.
and allowing a tree to grow. A lot of times when you leave, um, and you kind of bounce around in between purposes and passions, you don't give yourself the ability to plant roots in anything. A lot of times it's like, okay, I'm in this relationship for 6 months, this relationship for a year, this relationship for 2 years. I'm in this job for a year. I'm in this school for a year. This is my major. Um, I think it's worth it because I stuck to something, and I developed it and I learned it and I perfected it. So I want to get people out of the mindset of bottom and top. Uh, as in success is something that you'll go up higher if as achieving it. Uh, the biggest success that you can have is the ability to do one thing and master it, and there's not much movement in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's grounded. It's grounded. A lot of people say, "Hey, I started from the bottom and now I'm at the top." That's almost like an ego thing, and I had to kind of watch that for myself because uh, God is at the top. My goal is to stay at the bottom, receive all of these blessings, but stay grounded because there's a thin line between success and ego, and you got to be careful with that. Um, but all of the pain and the suffering, and then the work, the hard work and dedication that I put into staying in the poetry, it changed my life forever. So it was definitely worth it. But I don't look at it like an extension. I look at it like I'm building roots. I'm tying further into the bottom, not going away.
Okay. All right. That's good stuff. I agree 100%. And that's a new way for me to look at it as well. And I'm sure somebody else, as far as knowing what you're supposed to do and knowing how to not get caught up in, "Oh, I got to get to the top, I got to get to the top." Because when you so focused, now that I'm thinking about it, you focus on getting to the top, you'll do anything. And that's when
Yeah,
people will, and that's just never good. So,
no sir.
all right. So, next segment, tips and scenarios. Every towards the end of the episode, I always have a section called tips and scenarios for my college students. So, what would be any tips or just any scenarios or any words of advice for those in college who's saying, I'm struggling to figure out what I want to do? Because a lot of times I'm learning, a lot of people say they feel like they went to college for no reason, but I correct them because I say you didn't go for no reason, because everything is needed and every experience is needed and is molding you to be the person that you were created and designed to be. Because if you weren't
Yeah,
supposed to go to college, you wouldn't win.
yeah.
But I'm getting people out of that. But if for those who are in college, who do you say, I need to be here. And some people might say, maybe I need to leave college, but what would be some tips and areas for those who are in college who want to, grow in their purpose, grow and hone in on their gifts and talents and things like that? What would be maybe some words of advice?
I mean, my words of advice are to lay a brick every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think for me, I think when I was in college, I didn't take advantage of the other things besides the education that college offered, um, and that was a mistake. The beauty about college is the freedom to grow into your own without the limitations and restrictions that living at home with your parents does. It's the ability to network with all different kinds of people. Don't go to college just for the curriculum, because you'll miss some of the most real blessings that college has to offer, with the ability to make friends, the ability to join organizations, the ability to tap into yourself on a personal level. It's definitely a road of self-discovery, and I just want more people. I know with COVID and all this, it's been kind of hard to you know, it's going to be difficult to get back on campus, and then when you do, the world's just going to be different. But use that time to tap into yourself, and then to tap into everything but education. I mean, because education is a lifelong thing, but your ability to be in the same dorm rooms and hallways on campuses as different people from different cities and states and countries participated in different activities and excursions. I wish I would have joined more clubs. I wish I would have joined the fraternity. I wish I would have went to more events on campus. I wish I would have fraternized more with more of the students. I went to school and I went home, and that was it. So enjoy college for everything it has to offer outside of education, because after that, real life starts, and you want to be as well rounded as possible. So take advantage of all of those things. If you C's get degrees, to be honest, as long as you get that piece of paper when you go interview at your job, which I hope you get. Rarely do they ask for transcripts, bro. So don't focus on that. I'd rather you get a C, but play a sport, join a club, uh, take up a fire minor and something that you really want to learn about. But no, just enjoy college, enjoy the freedom, enjoy the fun, enjoy the flexibility. Because after that, it's 9 to 5.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. See, when I was in college, I did some stuff. I really
Yeah,
wish I could have did a little more, but I definitely
for
did some
sure,
stuff.
for
So,
sure.
all right. So, we ending off with the game time. All right. Today's game time is called the blueprint or the imitation. I'm gonna give you some scenarios. I only got four of them. You're gonna tell me whether or not this scenario is a scenario of a blueprint or a scenario of an imitation. All right. So
Yeah.
this is kind of like the test for the episode. Okay. All right. So the first one, somebody starts going on tour with lines of your poem, and they're also from Philly.
Mm, okay. So I guess
Blueprint or
oh,
imitation.
blueprint.
Okay. Somebody creates a new sound in rap that has never been heard before.
Oh, that's a blueprint too.
Um, Creating your own custom hats and throwing shots at everybody who made custom hats before you.
That's imitation.
All right. It says people creating a meme page with original content, but admits to being inspired by others before them.
That's a little bit of both.
Okay.
No, I mean it's imitation if you're inspired, right?
And that's another way to look at it, because most people, I feel like it's good imitation and bad imitation, because it's imitation where you just completely jocking somebody, but then it's you imitating it in the sense where you redoing it in a way where it is your own, but you can say that this person gave me, you
Yeah,
know, you know.
yeah. You know,
Y'all got it.
hear me out. Now I know, like maybe some of the people are watching will think that I'm not believable when I say certain things. But let's say I wrote a line, and let's say the line was fire, like a fire line that really resonated with a bunch of people, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, uh, I get more joy out of the fact that the line had an effect on a person more so than anger I get from a person saying it. That's like God being mad at the preachers who preach His word. Not to compare myself to God by any stretch of the imagination, but you understand what I'm saying? Like let's say I got a line from one of my poems, and it goes uh, I just want to drown in you. I just want to invite all your exes to our wedding so they can watch me put your crown on you. Now, every time I say that line, the crowd goes nuts in any venue. So if a guy says that at his own show, and that it still gets that reaction, the reaction isn't so much the guy, but it's the word, you know. So like I said, I get more joy out of somebody appreciating that line and then giving them that hope. You know, it's not like I'm um, like these are trade secrets. You know, these are just spoken words. And
Right.
my goal is to make you feel something. Like my goal for being a poet is not to be famous. It's more so I'm a poet because what I say makes people feel something, and I choose writing as my passion and my purpose to heal and to inspire. So I don't really care who says it. Like you could take all my books and record them, but if the end result is a woman or a man being in a better position after, I won. I won, and I lose sleep. I lose sleep if I think otherwise. Uh, Now, if I had a clothing line, or if I made watches and people were selling knockoff watches of my watch, that's different. But because my vessel is words, and there's nothing new under that sun anyway. But as long as it makes somebody else feel something, bro, I'm straight with that.
Okay. All right. What a way to end it off. All right. My question and challenge for the people. Remember, make sure I answer that so you can get these gift cards. All right. Do you feel as though you know your purpose on earth? You need to tell me why you do or no if you don't. I gotta thank my boy Just Mike the Poet, y'all. We've been missing each other like crazy, but we finally got each other on the same time. After this, I'm probably gonna go to sleep because it's late night.
For sure.
But anything you want to leave the people with, because you know anything you want to leave people before we leave?
Um, no, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to tell you that I appreciate you for your platform. Um, Rarely do I do these things, but most of the time when I do them, they're not as thought out, they're not as organized. I like everything about what you're doing. I like your messages. So I just want to take my time to support and encourage you, and give you your flowers while I can, just to tell you that I appreciate you so much for all the work that you do, and then all the attention to detail that you put into your platform. And I appreciate that. And I'm blessed to even be asked to do it. So just keep doing your thing, and however I can support you, my brother, you hit me up, because this was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. I really do. Um, that's all I got. I thank you again for coming through.
No
Um,
doubt,
we definitely gonna get something going in the future.
for
That's for
sure.
sure. But for my people, thank y'all for tuning in. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are and make your mind up. Don't let it make you.